All right, so you're thinking about a career in construction painting.
Most people, they kind of think, oh, isn't that just like putting paint on stuff?
Right, like how hard can it be? Slap on some color, call it a day.
Yeah, but that's where they'd be wrong.
Oh, big time. And luckily for us, we've got some insights from RoleCatcher. They're a career development platform, right?
Yeah, they use some really cool tech, even AI think.
AI, wow. So they're using all that to help people navigate, like the whole job market thing, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's amazing to me how, even in a field that's been around forever, like painting, how much tech is changing things.
I know, right? But okay, before we get lost in the algorithms and whatnot, let's back up a bit. What does a construction painter even do?
Okay, so first of all, forget that image of someone just slopping paint on a wall. There's a lot more to it.
Like, what? Give us the inside scoop.
Well, a huge part of it is surface prep. It's like imagine a surgeon prepping a patient for surgery.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I see what you mean. It's all about that foundation.
Exactly. Scraping, sanding, priming. You can't just cover up flaws with paint.
Makes sense. But I'm guessing the canvas, so to speak, can vary a lot in this job.
Oh, absolutely. One day you might be working on a house, then the next it could be a giant office building. Each one has its own quirks and challenges.
And I bet you're not just using, like, brushes and rollers, right? I was checking out RoleCatcher's stuff, and they mentioned sprayers, different types of coatings. It seems pretty high-tech.
Yeah, you got to be good with a variety of tools for sure. And knowing how all those different paints work, it's like a science.
So it's not just about having a steady hand, it's about having a scientific mind, too.
Hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah, and you got to be able to work with others on a construction site too. Communication is key.
It's like a well-oiled machine. Everyone's got to be in
Right.
sync. Okay, but let's be real for a sec. This job's got to be tough on the body, too, right?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, you're on your feet all day, and you need some muscle, especially when you're working high up.
It sounds like you need to be tough as nails, but also have an artist's eye.
Mm.
So for anyone thinking about this as a job, what's the path look like? Can you move up?
Oh, for sure. There's a whole career ladder in construction painting. RoleCatcher actually does a really good job of laying out the different stages.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. Let's break it down. Where does a brand new painter even begin?
Usually you'd start at the entry level. You're working alongside more experienced painters, learning all the tricks of the trade.
Right, so it's kind of like an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
Getting your hands dirty and learning from the best.
Exactly. You got to pay your
But
dues.
then, as you get better, you move up to, what is it, junior painter?
Yep. That's where you get a lot more responsibility.
Okay, so what kind of stuff are you deciding as a junior painter?
Well, it's not just about following instructions anymore. You're making calls on things like which primers to use. You're tackling tougher painting projects.
So you're thinking more strategically about the whole project. That's awesome. And what about those who really, like, make it to the top? The senior painters. What makes them stand out?
At that point, it's not even just about painting anymore, really. You're like the conductor of an orchestra, overseeing everything, managing the budget, mentoring the newer folks, even talking to clients directly.
Wow, so you've gone from just, like, painting the walls to basically running the show.
Pretty much. And that experience becomes super important as technology changes things up in the industry.
Oh, yeah, we can't forget about the tech. It's wild how AI is popping up everywhere, even in construction painting. And RoleCatcher is a great example of that.
RoleCatcher, they're doing some really interesting things with AI, like analyzing job descriptions.
Analyze job descriptions. How does AI even do that?
It's kind of like, how sometimes you read something and you can just tell there's more to it than what's written?
Oh, yeah, totally. Like reading between the lines.
Exactly. And that's what RoleCatcher's AI does with those job postings. It figures out all those kind of hidden skills that employers want but don't always come right out and say.
So you mean instead of just sending out the same old resume everywhere, you can tailor it, like make it super specific to what they're actually looking for, even if it's not obvious.
Exactly, gives you a real edge. And speaking of an edge, they've also got this whole thing for interview prep with AI.
Ah, the interview. I mean, even for an experienced painter, that can be scary.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised. Communication skills, they're a big deal, even in a hands-on job like this.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Like, you might need to explain something technical to a contractor or talk a client through your process. Being able to get your point across clearly, super important.
So it's not just about answering a few basic questions.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to think on your feet, right? Show them you know your stuff.
Exactly. And that's where RoleCatcher comes in. They've got this huge bank of interview questions, all sorts of situations you might run into, and practicing those really helps.
It's like having a practice run before the big game.
Yeah.
And they use AI for feedback too, right?
Yeah, the AI looks at your answers and tells you what you can improve, like your delivery, your content, even your tone.
Wow. So you're not just guessing what needs work, you're getting like personalized advice.
Exactly. It can even catch those little things we don't always notice ourselves, like how often you say, or if you're making eye contact.
It's amazing to me. We're talking about a job that involves like paint and ladders and stuff. But even construction painters got to be tech savvy these days.
It really shows how technology is changing everything. And it's not just about AI and job stuff either. The paint technology itself is changing in some crazy ways too.
Okay, now you've got to tell me more about that. Are we talking self-painting walls anytime soon?
Well, maybe not quite yet, huh? But there is some cool stuff happening, like imagine paints that change color depending on the temperature, or ones that heal themselves if they get scratched.
No way. That's like straight out of a sci-fi movie. Seriously, though, what kind of impact is this going to have on the whole construction painting industry? Are robots going to be doing all the work?
You know, it's a good question, and people are talking a lot about that. Automation, it's definitely becoming more common, but at the same time, there's a big push for sustainability, being eco-friendly in construction.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
People want to be more environmentally conscious.
Exactly. So that's changing everything, from the kind of paints they're using to the way buildings are designed.
So it's not just about a fresh coat of paint. It's about, like, making responsible choices for the planet and for people.
Absolutely. And this is something that anyone going into construction painting really needs to understand.
Right. It's like you need to be on top of the art of it, A&D, the technology side.
Exactly. That's what makes this field so cool. It's a mix of old school skills and cutting edge stuff.
Speaking of cool, I got to ask, are there any kind of unusual or unexpected jobs you can get into within construction painting?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you've got the residential and commercial stuff, but there are some really niche specialties out there.
Okay, now you have to tell me. Spill the tea.
Well, think about this. Who do you think paints those massive bridges, those skyscrapers?
Oh my gosh, you're right. I never even thought about that. That takes guts.
It does. It's called industrial painting, and it often involves special equipment, safety procedures. It's a whole different ballgame.
Wow. So for someone who loves heights and a good challenge, that's the way to go.
For sure. And then there's historical restoration.
Oh, wow. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, so these are the painters who work on restoring old historic buildings. They use traditional methods and materials, to really bring the past back to life.
So it's not just about making things look nice. It's like being a historian or something.
Absolutely. It's about preserving our heritage. Oh, and then there's scenic painting.
Scenic painting, like what?
You know, those incredible backgrounds you see in theaters and amusement parks, even movie sets? A lot of that is done by scenic painters.
No way. So the next time I'm watching a movie, that awesome set could be thanks to a construction painter.
That's right. Oh, and let's not forget decorative finishes.
Decorative finishes, what's that all about?
Things like faux finishing, making a wall look like wood or marble, or trompe l'oeil, where you paint something to look totally real.
That's incredible. There's so much to construction painting. I had no idea.
Right. There's something for everyone.
This has been amazing, learning about construction painting in such depth, from those basic skills to the technology that's changing everything.
It's been fun talking about this field.
And a big thanks to RoleCatcher for all the insights.
Definitely. Their platform is a great resource for anyone who wants to get into construction painting, or even those who are already in the field and want to stay on top of their game.
Totally. And for our listeners, whether you're into painting or just navigating the job market in general, the message is clear. Keep learning, keep your skills sharp, and always be ready for what's next.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Now, before we wrap up, I do want to leave you with a little something to think about.
Okay, lay it on me. What's that thought-provoking question you wanted to leave us with?
So we've talked about all the cool tech already changing how things work for construction painters, but what about the future? Like, how else could tech revolutionize things in the next 10 years? What should up-and-coming painters be ready for?
That is a good one. I mean, we've got AI sizing up job postings, coaching you on interviews. Are we going to see robots taking over the whole gig? Is that what we're talking about?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's tricky. I mean, sure, automation might be able to handle certain parts of the job better. Like, say you've got a huge wall that's all one color. A robot could probably do that faster, right? But to completely replace the human touch, I don't know about that. Think about all those fancy finishes, historical restorations. Each project has its own challenges. You need a human brain for that.
Yeah, you're right. You can't program a robot to, like, feel the nuances of aging leather or whatever when they're
Yeah,
doing a faux finish.
exactly. There's that creativity, that on-the-spot problem solving. AI is not quite there yet, but that doesn't mean tech's not going to keep shaking things up.
Okay, so what else could we see down the line? What's next?
Imagine this. You're working, and you've got augmented reality tools showing you blueprints right there in front of you. No more squinting at paper, way less room for error. Or, picture this, paints with sensors built right in so they can tell you if the humidity's wrong or the temperature before it even becomes a problem.
Whoa, that's like next level stuff.
Yeah.
Painters with superpowers.
Right. And anyone getting into painting these days, they gotta be ready for this. It's not just about knowing how to paint anymore. It's about being tech savvy, being ready to adapt.
Like, yeah, it's the difference between a painter who sticks to their old brushes and one who embraces all the digital tools out there. Both are good, but one's got more options.
Exactly. Being able to use those tools, that's going to set apart the next generation of construction painters.
So, to anyone listening who's thinking about construction painting as a career, remember, it's about the hands-on skills and keeping up with the times. Get ready to work hard and stay curious.
Well said. And hey, maybe one of our listeners will be the one to invent that self-painting paint.
You never know. This has been eye-opening, really diving into the world of construction painting. Huge thanks to RoleCatcher for the insights and to you, our expert, for walking us through all of it.
It's been a pleasure.
And to our listeners, whether you're set on a career in construction painting or just curious about it, we hope you've gained a whole new appreciation for this awesome field. Until next time, keep those brushes clean and those minds open.